Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again, guys. What's going on? I decided to start the show 30 minutes earlier, so I hope that didn't impact anybody's schedules. But I do have to get ready to go to work, so I was like, you know what? The earlier I start the show, the earlier I could finish, the more time I have to get prepared and do what I got to do for the rest of the night. It's going to be a long night, as it usually is. I'm usually going to be done like around 3 a.m., come home, go to sleep, wake up, do it all over again. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys for joining me today on this Tuesday morning. What is this, 11:30 Eastern time? I know we have an international audience, so people are going to be watching it at all various different times and even sometimes days around the world. And I'm very, 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 very happy to get that attention and get that kind of support from this audience. I have two important shows I want to do for you today. So it's going to be a twofer because we're going to be talking about two different things. And we'll go ahead and change that title to reflect what we're going to talk about today. We're, number one, going to start off with why I believe Madeline Soto was killed. And so basically I did a video for my members, which was a behind the scenes video, live show for the members that laid out this show that I'm doing now. What I was going to do and what I usually do for the members, just gives you an inside look on what we do in the member program. Some of the things that we do is I do a live show for them. I interact with them, of course, just like I'm doing right now. Very same thing that's happening here will happen for the live show. And then I'll edit that live show and make a pre-produced show. So many of your pre-produced shows that you see, those little one-off shows, those actually come from live shows that I did with the membership, and they got that experience. Unfortunately, something's wrong with YouTube, and I could not download that show to be able to edit down and give you my show on why I think jealousy is what ended Madeline Soto, one of the things that ended her. Now, this is a theory, of course, guys, so please, I'm telling you a theory, and I'm going to use facts to back up that theory, but it still is just a theory. So don't go into crazy in the comment sections like, I think you're wrong. Where's your evidence of this theory? Well, that's it. It's a theory. You know, at one point, your microwave was a theory. At one point, your car was a theory. The airplane that you went to Aruba in was a theory at some point, and then you had to get the evidence and the facts to back it up and make it into an actual fact, right? So anyway, so it didn't work. So I'm just doing this brand new for you guys because, you know, I can't pull that video down. And then I want to talk about something else because I just dropped a video that's doing pretty decently about a News Fox 35 article that said that Jen Soto basically knew that her daughter was being groomed. I covered the article. And get it, you know, it's kind of like 75-25, where 75 of people are like, hey, I agree with this. And you don't have to agree with it. I'm not saying anyway that people should agree with everything I say. Absolutely not. I'm here trying to explore just like you guys. That's why we're all true crime. But 25% is like, hey, you know, I don't think that's what she meant. I'm not sure. Some people were like, hey, I think the article may be misleading. That's perfectly understandable. Some people blaming me when all I did was read the article off the screen for you guys. But I went and I did my research, and we're going to talk about what I found, and we're going to talk about all of the ancillary evidence that exists that shows that either she knew or she should have knew it was happening. And if she didn't know it was happening, then she's negligent or she's reckless. Sorry, I have a fan blowing on me because it's hot down here in the studio with all the lights. It's blowing dust in my face. I apologize. And if she did know, then she's just straight up guilty. Either one is a crime, really. But I also want to address one more thing before we get started with the jealousy aspect. People are saying, well, if that video that I did was correct, then Jen would be charged. And that is just not the case, ladies and gentlemen. And I've been telling you guys for a little while now, it is not the case. You don't know what the county attorney is doing down there. We don't know what deals are being made. We don't know what strategies that they have going on. I can tell you for a fact, it's not the first time or the last time that the media has been used to send out a narrative that is opposite to the narrative that police are actually planning for. You wouldn't know that unless you've been in those rooms. Listen, True crime people have solved many cases. We've seen this documented. I mean, that case with that young lady, was it Gabby Potato? True crime basically solved that case, the Gabby Potato case. Remember that? True crime solved that. There was another case that was solved by true crime where the young lady went missing by a lake, and then true crime basically found out that she basically drove into the lake by accident. That was pretty much solved by true crime and volunteer divers that were part of that true crime community that had like a crime scene true crime channel, and they would go diving in lakes looking for bodies and stuff. Between the true crime people who were on the internet and that true crime volunteer organization who actually did forensics, they solved that case, not police. So in no way am I saying the true crime community is not capable of giving back and solving, actually playing a meaningful part in these investigations. But there's certain conversations and certain things that you will only know from experience. Even if you're well-read and you're a very intelligent, high IQ person, unless you actually experience certain things, you're not even going to know that it exists. So I'm telling you from my experience that there are conversations that I've been a part of that some of you may not have been a part of that could probably be at play right now in the Jen Soto case. Conversations such as, we want a little bit more, so how about we throw it out there that she's not going to be arrested yet or until more evidence comes out, to make her relaxed, and then she makes a mistake and we pounce on her. Or right now we're in negotiations with her to make her a cooperating witness, and we're going to give her immunity, and if we give her immunity, she cannot be charged. And one will say, and even I've said it, like, wow, I think they have enough. They don't really need her, but that's not necessarily the case, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to convince a jury of people to give this man a death penalty. Is it going to be hard to get them to say guilty? Of course not. On the sex allegations, Stephan Stearns is guilty, hands down. Even though our system is innocent until proven guilty, hands down, he's guilty. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say this guy's guilty. I think most of you would agree with me as well. But when it gets to the death penalty, you don't know what juror actually has an ideological difference with the notion of giving somebody the death penalty. You can weed them out and you can say, hey, on this panel, who here believes in the death penalty? Who has a problem voting for death penalty? And you can't be sure that a person is not going to raise their hand and eliminate themselves from that pool. They might say, I don't have a problem with the death penalty, but internally, they're lying. They really do. And now when it's time to vote on that death penalty, that person is a no. What you want is the most clear and convincing evidence, beyond a reasonable doubt. You want as many witnesses as possible to testify against this man that it would sway the conscience of somebody who's on the fence. Somebody's like, you know what? I don't ever want to be a party to sentencing somebody to death and they're really innocent. There are people out there who think like that. And there are documented cases where somebody has been sentenced to death and they were innocent. There's a lot of people who will say, I'd rather just give you life than death, because if I give you death and I got it wrong, I won't be able to live with myself. Well, how do you overcome that? You get every single witness you could possibly get to say, look at the evidence and look at the witness testimony. This person is guilty. And who's the best witness that we have? The best witness that we have who could tie all of that together. I'm waiting on you. All right. Jen Soto. Jen Soto. She's the best witness that we have. Once she gets immunity, she's not going to care about telling the truth, because not even that she's not going to care. She has to tell the truth, otherwise the immunity goes away. So she has to say how many times she allowed Stephan Stearns to go into the bedroom with Maddie. She has to say if she ever heard any strange noises. She has to say if Maddie ever came to her and complained to her that she was being sexually abused by Stephan Stearns, which is a rumor that's going around, allegedly, that was in the documentations that some true crimers have read, I haven't seen it yet. If you guys have a hold of it, please send it to me. I would appreciate to have it. She has to speak about all these things. She has to speak about if Stephan even told her that he was molesting Maddie and raping Maddie. She would have immunity from all that stuff. Even if she admits to it, she could not ever be charged for it, ever, period. She walks away scot-free. So we don't know what negotiations are happening behind the scenes that could result in her not being charged. And just because they haven't charged her with the clear and convincing stuff that we have seen so far that shows that she was a negligent parent, there might be a reason for that. And it may not be because that evidence is lacking. It could just maybe be because they're looking at a bigger picture that we're not seeing. And as I told you guys also in a previous live, you don't need physical evidence to charge somebody with a crime. That is a myth. That's what you see on TV, especially when you have domestic style cases like this case, which is basically a domestic case where people are commingling. If a stranger pops out of nowhere and sexually abuses you, you can easily explain that any evidence that this stranger has on this person is evidence that that person was a victim. But when you have a person that lives in a house with you, let me give you an example. Let's say it's a father and a daughter, or a husband and a wife. Let's not do a father and a daughter. Let's do a husband and a wife. Because father and daughter is too easy. Wives do get sexually abused, believe it or not. Let's say it's a husband and wife. We'll make it even easier. Husband and wife is going through a divorce. But because of the economy we're living in, and the fact that they have to sell the house and all this stuff, and neither one of them have any money, they're living check to check. And until they sell the house and they split it 50-50, they won't have the money to go start their new lives. So they're living together, but they understand that the relationship is over. But in many of these type of messy relationships like this, they may slip up because they have needs, and maybe they had sex once in a blue moon, but they don't do it a lot. It's only once in a blue moon when they both consent, because guess what? They don't want to muddy the waters. This relationship is over. So let's say the wife had sex with the husband 2 weeks prior. 2 weeks later, he comes home drunk. He wants to have intercourse with her. She's like, no, I don't want to have intercourse with you. I'm not interested. He also finds out that she's probably starting to talk to another guy. What does he do? He slaps her around, forcibly rapes her. She's trying to deal with it. She's trying to say, should I let this go? Whatever, whatever. Remember, it's domestic, so it's messy. But 3 weeks later, after her physical wounds, because she just got smacked, so not saying that that's a little thing, but she didn't have any serious contusions, just a red face. 3 weeks later, she decides to come forward to the cops. No rape kit was done. It was domestic. She didn't even think into her head to go to the hospital and get a rape kit done. So then the investigator asked her, and I'm going to make this quick. I'm sorry, I'm not going to turn this into the whole show. Real quick. So the investigator asked her, well, where did this assault happen? Well, it happened in the shower. I was taking a shower. He came in the shower with me. He smacked me up, and then he took me inside the bathroom, inside the shower. If the investigator takes a crime scene down to the shower and they find samples of seminal fluid inside of the shower, what is that husband going to say? He would say, I'm going through a bad divorce. Me and her barely have sex. If ever, I could count it on our hand the amount of times we had sex. I masturbate in the shower every single night. So that's not evidence that could prove anything. But you know what? There is a investigative technique that we use that I'm not going to say, because obviously it'll alert all of the bad guys of some of the things that we do. But it wouldn't be physical evidence, that investigative technique. But basically, that type of case is going to rely primarily on the witness statement and testimony, the will of the district attorney to take it to court. Like, is there a history of domestic violence and stuff like that to bolster that this guy is violent? And the investigative technique that I'm not going to speak about. That would not be a physical evidence heavy case. It would be a circumstantial evidence case. So you don't always need physical evidence to convict somebody. Sometimes all you need is the totality of the evidence. Another big evidence I can tell you about is contemporaneous statements and outcry statements. So for instance, the first person she spoke to right after that assault happened from her soon-to-be ex-husband was a best friend. And she's like, yo, I need a place to stay tonight. This mother effer took me in the bathroom. I can't believe he did that to me. He never did that to me before. He's always been an a-hole, but he's always respect my personal space. I need to get out of here. Now that's evidence, because that's a friend that can testify, hey, listen, she did tell me that on the night that it happened. And there's other things, but I'm not going to go into it. But I can tell you that because it is what it is. That's something somebody can't stop. That's something that naturally happens. Bad guy usually can't stop people from outcries. But once again, no physical evidence. There's not going to be no DNA. There's not going to be no rape kit showing that there was semen in her cervix and it happened around this time and they could tell that it happened within the last 24 hours. It's not going to be none of that. It's not going to be no semen from the sheets and all that stuff and panties. It's not going to exist. It's going to be all about testimony and the totality of the case and the will of the district attorney or the county attorney to bring that case to a jury. So we're going to talk about the totality of the case against Jen Soto, in my opinion. The totality. We're going to read some very disturbing things, so I hope you guys are ready to ride. Well, not disturbing. We're not going to read anything disturbing, anything salacious, but we're going to read very probative things from Jen Soto that's going to prove my case, in my opinion. All right? Now, let's go to the topic we want to start with. We can get that out the way, which is the jealousy of Stephan Stearns and the reason why I believe he killed this beautiful angel. All right. I see the chat is booming. I appreciate you guys for showing love in there. We got a $3 super chat from Super Chiller from Kelly. Super sticker. Sorry, I had a piece of ice in my mouth. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. Let's do it. So, I've really been thinking about this, and there's a lot of theories. Like I told you guys, we're doing theories, and when you have theories, you will throw out multiple things, and this is what we do. And excuse this is from the accident. Please go check out that video. I think that's a real uplifting video that I did yesterday about an accident that occurred where me and a couple of other beautiful Americans saved the life of a man in a really, 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 really bad crash. It was really bad. So go check that video out. I don't care if people watch it. It's not for views. It's an uplifting story because all we do is talk about these horrible cases in true crime. You know what? It's nice if there's a story where people come together to actually save the life of another person. And I wish I kept that guy's name. But when you're in the thick of that stuff, you're not thinking about memorizing somebody's name or taking pictures or videoing and stuff. I think we live in a terrible culture where when a tragedy happens, instead of people helping, they whip out their phones. They're whipping out their phones. I didn't whip my phone out. I didn't take pictures of his ID. I didn't do none of that. Neither did anybody else on that scene. Our focus was to save that man. So excuse that. That is as a result of it. And guess what? If this is all I got out of that situation, then I'm blessed. I definitely am. All right. So I've been thinking about this, right? And this is what we do in the back end. This is what the investigators and the detectives do. So people sometimes there's some people on true crime who just want to stick with the facts, right? And I get that, and I respect you, and I'm not in any way trying to denigrate what you're looking for from the genre. But that's not what I'm bringing. When I think about that, I'm thinking more like a Grizzly true crime, people like that, where they're just about reading you exactly the facts and stuff like that. That's why I watch her show to get a lot of my facts. I'm a big fan of hers, and she's been shouting me out lately, and I'm humbled. I smile every time. She's the queen of true crime, man. It's nothing but love here. I look up to her like I told her inside of her chat when I hit her up and she acknowledged me. I said, listen, you're one of my inspirations for doing true crime. I watch a lot of shows in silence, so you'll never know that I'm a big fan of your show until I finally decide to say something. And a lot of fans are like that with me. Listen, we have 400 people watching us right now and just a couple dozen people typing in the chat. That's some people just want to listen. They don't want to interact. Sometimes I do that as well, right? But like I said, big shout out. If you want to see just straight facts, then you go to a show like that. On this show, we report the facts, but we also do, what are our theories? What do we think is happening here? And what can we use from the facts to support these theories? Because that's what we actually do in the cipher, as we call it, in the huddle. That's what we do. We're there trying to brainstorm on what we think might happen. What might have been the motivation? Motive is big for us because it helps steer us in the right direction. Why is this happening? Why did this person make this choice as opposed to that choice? This is important. This is an important part of crime fighting. It may not be an important part to some of you guys when it's time to digest this entertainment factor of it. But in the real world, when you're inside of the room and you're trying to figure out these cases, you have to have theories. But you also have to have a brain that's capable of changing directions. So when that theory is wrong, you don't stick to it. You got to go in another direction. You know, you got to, all right, the evidence is taking me this way, so I go this way, right? So one of my theories is that he was insanely jealous of Madeline Soto, in that he viewed her as though she was his woman. Big shout out to Kelly Davis with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much. He literally believed that he was in a relationship with Madeline Soto, more so than he was in a relationship with Jen. Jen was a means to an end, ladies and gentlemen. Jen was a means to an end. And so we're getting all this conflicting information on the state of their relationship. Within the document dump, some detectives are reporting that they broke up. Some detectives are reporting that the only reason why he moved back to Northport is because of finances. His father no longer wanted to pay his room rent, so he couldn't afford to stay in Jen Soto's father's house anymore. There's so many different things. But one conflict that I noticed is that Jen told a friend that one of the reasons why she broke up with Stephan Stearns, see if I can find that, is because he didn't want to have sex with her anymore. Now, we got other reporting that she said that because of her medication regimen, that her libido was turned off. And so he was sexually frustrated. But then we have the friend, the roommate, saying that the reason why Stephan Stearns moved out, was told to move out by Jen, is because they weren't having intercourse anymore. Hold on one second. Let me check this. Whoa. Oh, we got Grizzly in the building? Oh, shoot. Wow. What'd you do that for? Now you threw me off my game. All right, guys. The show is over. We got to acknowledge the presence of Grizzly True Crime in the building. I'm getting my engines running, and I get Aki in the chat like, yo, acknowledge Grizzly. I'm like, what are you talking about? Acknowledge Grizzly. I'm like, oh, shit, Grizzly's, excuse my French. Grizzly's in the building. Listen, I got to say this before I continue, all right? You know, I really am a big fan of Grizzly, and I've been a fan for a long time, as I said before. I remember one of the first times I saw her is when she was on, my son is over here, what up, son? Is when she was on the Pascal show, doing a collaboration with him, which was really cool. Pascal is a great guy. But I got to tell you, Grizzly, I don't just look at myself as a normal YouTuber. This is for fun. I'm not really, my channel's growing, but I'm not making much money off of this and all that stuff. I'm a sex crimes detective. I've been doing this for a very long time. And as a professional who's out there actually working and solving these cases on a daily basis, well, trying to solve them, you can't solve all of them, I got to say, you are top notch. You are in the wrong profession. You should be in the front lines with me. I think if Grizzly was out there examining these cases, I think there would probably be no case that would go unsolved. Now, I'm being funny because there's some cases you just can't solve, but you are really, really awesome, and you really do a really good job, and I love your integrity, and I love what you bring to the genre, and I got to say congratulations on all of your success, and most of us out here could only hope to be able to rise to your level, and not only to rise to your level, but to have your reputation as well, because that's important. Reputation. You don't want to just be somebody out there that's just throwing things out there and hurting people. you also have to have a reputation of trust with your audience. And that's something I want to strive to do. And I appreciate you. So, all right, let me get back to the show. All right. So let me see if I could find. All right. So I'm going to go and pull this up real quick for you guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks a lot for joining me. We have 549 people in the chat. Please hit that like button to show that love, people. We're not doing it for our egos. We're doing it so we can get into that algorithm. That's why we're doing it, for the algorithm, guys. So support the channel. Appreciate you. All right. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And what page was that I want you guys to take a look at? It's page 66. Sorry, you guys can give me a second. Page 26 as well. 66 and 26. All right. Almost there, guys. Almost there. All right, so page 66. So I'll start up here, actually. So they made a small place for Madeline to sleep in the living room, but she didn't like it, so she would sleep with Jennifer. I asked if she ever witnessed Stephan and Madeline go into Stephan's bedroom by themselves, and she said yes. Jennifer would be at the house when this occurred. Angelica said she had a conversation with Jennifer about Stephan and about Madeline, so she was okay with it happening. Angelica said she had another conversation with Jennifer about her sexual interactions or lack thereof with Stephan. Angelica, now mind you, this is the roommate and also a childhood friend of Madeline, of Jen's sister. So this girl was like family, and that's why the father rented to her. She got in there to get help because she needed to get her life together. So she's close with the family. She's cool with Jen, but she's super cool with Jen's sister. She's like family, okay? So what did she say? She said, Angelica said they didn't have sexual relations often, and that is why she didn't want to be with him any longer. Now, this is girl talk here. This is Jen Soto talking to a friend about her sex life. And she said he didn't have, she said they didn't have sexual relations often, and that is why she didn't want to be with him any longer. Now, Angelica didn't say, well, she told me her medication made her not want to have sex, and he always wanted to have sex, and because he constantly wanted to have sex and she didn't feel like having sex, she decided they should no longer be together. That's one thing. It's another thing when she says they didn't have sex, and that's why she didn't want to be with him, which meant that the lack of sex was the reason why she didn't want to be with him. So that plays into the fact that he wanted Maddie more than he wanted Jen Soto. Now I'm going to play for you. I'm sorry, I thought I put that on the screen right there. Let me put it here just so you can see what I was reading from. This is page 66, and it would be over here that this came out. This is the 80-page document dump, just to make sure you guys know that I'm sourcing material. I'm not just making this stuff up as I go along. All right, so I want to play for you guys an audio now. Make sure that my phone is like buzzing in my hand. I want to play for you guys an audio real quick. And this right here is going to be Stephan Stearns talking about her crush. Remember, we're talking about the jealousy of Stephan Stearns, why I believe he killed her over jealousy. And for us normal people, we would think a crush with a little boy is not a big deal. We wouldn't be threatened by that. But when you are a man with an arrested development, a man who thinks he's still a child, when you are a pedophile, and these guys believe that they not only are attracted to these children, but they want to have relationships with these children, all right? When you are of that mind, when you are sick and demented like that, you're depraved in that manner, you're not going to think like a normal adult or what we characterize as a normal adult. So I want you to listen to this. Listen to Stephen Stearns talk about Maddie's crush. Listen to it.
She was excited.
Sorry. It's okay.
Just talking about crushes. Her singing that was coming up, and he wanted me to come see her sing. Nothing bad. She was just happy. She was very happy.
You guys heard that? Let's bring that back a little bit. I'm going to bring it back even a little further, just a tad bit further so you can get more context. I want you to hear how he says she was excited. Then he paused and he breaks up. She's talking about crushes. Listen to how he talks about crushes. This is a little boy that she's talking about. Listen to how he sieves when he speaks about crushes. Big shout out to Vicky Guerrero with a $10 super chat. Says, I love your content, your content, your professionalism. Great job. Thank you so much, Vicky. Appreciate you. Listen to the words. The devil is in the details, ladies and gentlemen.
Sunday night. Tell me about Sunday into Monday. What you remember?
She had just had a party. She was excited. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just talking about crushes.
She's talking about crushes. Am I exaggerating this, guys? If I'm listen, I am not without reproach. If I'm exaggerating, please tell me. Go in the chat, say strategic, you're reaching. I'm not even going to debate you. I'm going to apologize. Go in the chat. You know what? This is what we're going to do. I love an interactive chat. Start a Q&A. Start a poll, I'm sorry. Am I reaching on Stephan saying crushes? Let's let the people, let's let democracy speak. Am I reaching? Did that not sound like he was seething with anger? Crushes. One more time. And then I want to play for you what his father said happened the night before he went there and killed that beautiful little girl. Let's keep going.
She was so happy.
Okay. Because party, right?
And all three of us are together, and she was just so happy.
Tell me about Sunday night. Tell me about Sunday into Monday. What you remember?
She had just had a party. She was excited. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just talking about crushes. Her singing that was coming up, and he wanted me to come see her sing.
Now, we have testimony from the friends that said that after she spoke to Stephan about coming to the party, that after that she was distraught. I think most people, we don't know for sure, but believe that the fact that he's coming to the party is probably what contributed to her feeling the way that she felt. Big shout out to Grizzly True Crime. She says, I mean, he wants people to believe that her last words were, love you too. And you see that a lot with these guys. I remember we were working a case where I don't even know. I'm not going to talk about that case. I'm sorry. Just know that the person wanted the victim to tell him thank you and also forgive him for what he did. And because this person just said it for their personal safety so they wouldn't get killed, he left that person alone. I'm not going to go any further details than that, but you see that a lot. We do see that happen often where these psychopaths like to invent these beautiful stories with their crimes, as though, well, you know, there's beauty in the horror that I did. So yeah, good point, Grizzly True Crime. This guy is sick. All right, let me. I want to play for you what the father said about the night before.
There we go, that's better. Because that thing was, well, all right, I'm going to turn my phone off.
All right, let me pause it real quick so I can get us the exact time. So we're not here all day because that's a long video. And 24-minute mark is where we need to go. And this stuff is purchased from Plunder. There you go. I had a brain freeze right there. So definitely Plunder had the goods and I purchased it from Plunder. So now it's mine. But big shout out to Plunder for all her hard work, her and the docket for getting these materials and sharing it with the rest of us. Their prices, Plunder's prices are super low, totally understandable because obtaining this material is very expensive. Sometimes these police departments and district attorneys will charge exorbitant prices, way beyond what they need to actually, furnish you with the information. But these folks are pooling their money together and they're getting it. So big shout out to them for getting this information out there. All right, so now let's listen to what the father had to say about the night before Maddie was killed.
And yeah, do you remember when that was? Because I know she had a party on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
Was
when?
it Saturday?
I guess.
Or was it?
To make sure he was coming.
Something odd on Saturday. I don't know if was the invite on Saturday? Or did he just say Sunday, I'm going to Kissimmee?
No, I knew the week before because I found
Okay.
the gifts for Maddie.
Okay. He seemed to be very upset. Matter of fact, he came to me, he said, do you have any anxiety medication? I go, no, sorry, don't have anything like that. Everything I have is for diabetes or heart. Mm-hmm. And then he went to Debbie, and she said, I don't have any. And then he came back and said, well, I found some 4-year-old stuff. I said, oh, okay. But he was suffering from high anxiety, man. I don't know what he was stressed out about.
When was this?
Sometime in the evening. I don't know.
Oh, Saturday or
Saturday.
days prior to that?
Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he's making, and then I guess the medication worked, and again he looked like he was like very stressed out.
Have you ever seen him like that before?
Yes, when he was very stressed out. Mm-hmm. And it was like, better tiptoe, not sure if he's going to blow up or not.
Mm.
You know, he seemed like he was calm enough, but, I didn't know if anything could trigger him or not.
Mm.
Did it seem like he was more in fear of something or scared?
And this is a good question by this detective here, kind of diving into, tell me what you think his emotions were. You could get a lot from this. It could also alert somebody to your intention that, you kind of fishing. But I think at this point, everybody knows why the detectives are there. And the fact that the father is giving up this information, he appears to be wanting to cooperate. So that's a really good follow-up question by the detective. Let's keep going.
Or something, or just...
It was a different... Other than, being really upset about something, it looked like he was stressed out over something. Obviously, he never shared any of his feelings with us. Mm. And I had no idea it was stressing him out.
So why would he be stressed out, guys? He's broke. He has no money. He's stuck at home. He's miserable at home. All right. When we talk about the totality after this, that's why I started early, because it's going to be a long show and I need time to get ready to go work and do my thing. Because later on, we're going to talk about the totality of Jen's guilt. We're going to talk about how she lied. I'm going to show you this with your own eyes. We're going to talk about how she lied and said that his parents are senile. Remember, he said that to the cops, but we know his parents aren't senile. Remember, she said how the mother is super overweight and can barely move and all that stuff. I'm going to show you those statements, or the audio rather. And guess what? The mother is on Ozempic and lost a boatload of weight. So is the father. And this father's still vibrant. He's still working. He's still in corporate America. He's bouncing around from office to office. He's closing massive development deals. These aren't senile, half-deaf people. Does it sound like he's a senile, half-deaf person? He seems pretty on point. I mean, he's a former cop that used to work for the for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. And he still sounds like he's on his law enforcement game when he uses his voice, his tone, the type of words that he uses. He sounds like a fellow law enforcement officer. Sounds assertive, sounds confident, just like a law enforcement person is trained to be. He does not sound like the person that Stephan Stearns tried to pass him off to be. And he also doesn't sound like the person that Jen Soto tried to portray him to be. So she's lying for Stephan. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about it. All right, let's keep going.
But something really had him upset.
Angry upset or just not that type of upset?
Not angry upset, but just something worrisome. Just seemed like there was something that was really preying on him, and it was not settling well with him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I lost my train of thought. I don't know if you noticed. I got it again. I'm back. So what was on his mind, guys? Like I said, the guy is broke. He's miserable at his parents' house, right? He's getting a free trip that's financed by Jen to come up there. Because Jen said she paid for it because the father said, I had no money, but the father gave him enough money to like go back. He felt sorry for him. And then Jen was going to pay the rest of whatever expenses he had. But the father wouldn't give him any extra money, just enough to put gas inside of the tank. So food and everything else was going to be covered by Jen. In addition to that, the mother, Debra Stearns, gave him some mermaid teardrop. This is what she described them as. Jewelry. I think it's like a necklace and an earring or something like that she had bought for herself, but never used it because once she got it, she felt that it was nice, but then she thought it was a little too juvenile for a woman her age. But she felt that it was something that Maddie would have liked. So he has a gift from his parents. At least his gas and his vehicle comes from his parents, and whatever expenses he was going to incur was going to be covered by Jen. What is he upset about? Not to mention, every time he comes up to visit, he abuses that child. So he's also going to get access to what he wants. What would make him upset? Unless, of course, this child doesn't want to allow him to abuse her anymore, or allow is not the proper term, but is taking their power back and is now going to defy the abuse. Because whether they think they're lying or not, they're a victim. They've just been groomed and indoctrinated into this abuse. So it's not a situation of allowing. But so now this child is taking their power. It's either this child is taking their power back and they're like, no, this is not going to happen anymore. Or the child is like, hey, I got a crush on somebody. And you know, you're a psychopath and you're like, oh my God, how dare my property actually want to date somebody their age? Or 3, could be pregnancy, which is something that's still on my radar. Until we get the autopsy, we cannot say definitively that she was not pregnant. And just the fact that he wasn't charged with a second murder charge means nothing because once again, ladies and gentlemen, you're not in those rooms, neither am I. They can charge him with a second murder charge at any time. At any time. It could also be a situation, ladies and gentlemen, just to touch on the pregnancy, where she thought she was pregnant because she missed her period. And she brought it to his attention without proof. And that alone could have made him panicked. And she could not have actually been pregnant, but thought she was pregnant. But whatever. Why was he mad, ladies and gentlemen? We'll never know. But what we do know is that he keeps talking about a crush she had on. A crush that they allegedly together, Jen and Stephan, proved was no big deal. A crush that her best friend said the dude did not reciprocate. He wasn't interested in her. So why is it when they're talking to cops, they keep talking about the crush? Jen talks about the crush. He talks about the crush when they all know that this crush is not a viable place that Madeline would go because the crush didn't like her. Her best friend said the crush didn't like her. He didn't really talk to her like that. He wasn't interested. Then when they speak about the crush, oh, well, she had a crush, but we checked all the messages between them and there was nothing there. Why are you still talking about it then? What's the purpose? Unless the crush meant more to him than it did to anybody else. Let me let it play for a few more seconds and then we'll go on to the next piece of evidence.
And that's when he told you guys he was going to Kissimmee, or did he tell mom prior to that?
Well, he was making plans to go to Kissimmee, and I don't know exactly when this happened, whether he told me on Saturday, but I knew he was leaving Sunday because we talked about the expense of that trip, and he said, well, Jen's going to pay for the trip, because I was done paying for this stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, Jen's going to pay for it. I said, well, go down and fill up the car, and I'll take care of that. That would be enough gas for him to get up and get back, because that's all he was going to do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming that the plans were submitted on Saturday, but you're telling me that you knew about it a week in advance, and maybe he started planning that a week in advance, but I wasn't aware of it until the last minute.
Mm-hmm. But he didn't have this fearful reaction earlier that week. It was just that Saturday.
Yeah.
Did he say how long he planned on staying in Kissimmee?
A week.
A week.
Yeah. I was planning we were planning on him to be gone for a week because we were welcoming the break.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
What did he buy her as a gift? You said he got her a gift?
I had ordered something, and they looked marvelous, but then I got it, and I think, this is really probably too juvenile for me to wear. It's called Mermaid's Beads, and it's made out of sea glass, and it was a dual colored bracelet, and they had the stud earrings and the same thing.
I'm just letting this play out for a second simply because I'm looking for you guys for the next piece of evidence. I had it up and then I changed it. I'll find it in 2 seconds. But this is interesting stuff. This is probative stuff because, it kind of gives you an insight into how this guy lived his life.
And they were kind of opalescent. So they're really neat. It's by No Goo, and it's mermaid tears. But I said, these are still in the box. I've never even worn them. I said, why spend money on something? This is something she would really like, because I knew her enough to know this was something right up her alley. And I said, this is $90 worth of a gift, that's just going to sit where it could be doing good someplace, somebody could enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So just gave him the boxes and said, are you going to gift wrap them? He said, no, I'll just take them like this. So.
How did you guys come to hear about everything that happened on Monday?
So,
all right, so I'll stop it there. Now let's go to the next piece of evidence. So this is Frank. This is Frank Peralta, who was a friend of Stephan Stearns. Let me actually bring this up here. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to put this stuff up, but I want you guys to see that I'm reading from these factual sources here. I'm not making this stuff up, okay? And I'm doing this because I respect this community. This community is no joke, okay? The true crime community, you got to bring the facts, all right? So big shout out to them. All right, let me go ahead and scroll down, catch us up over here. We got 917 people watching this stream. Please hit that like button, support the channel. I think this is the highest amount of people we've ever had. If we get to 1,000 people, which I'm not pressing for, it is what it is. If the universe brings 1,000 here, that'd be great, but that would be the biggest, literally historical amount of numbers that we've ever had on this show. And I don't know what's bringing you guys here because we've done some much more profound shows. This is a big show. This is important, but we've done some ground breaking shows and had half the amount of people. So thank you for being here. Meg Schaefer with a White Shield. She's now a White Shield member of Strategic Eyes membership. Thank you so much, Meg, for trusting the channel and showing us love. Jacqueline B says, love you, and I love you too. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the support and love from everybody out there showing love to the Strategic Eyes show. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. So here's Frank. Here's Frank. Did I move this? I hope I didn't move it. All right, here we go. Before I continue, let me see what Aki has to say. She is should be showing that love. Aki keeps me grounded. You get lost in the YouTube sauce when you're out here in the studio all by yourself, managing all the things I'm managing. You guys have no idea how much I manage just to do this show by myself. I have no producers, no nothing. It's just me here in the basement, and my wife like, hurry up and get from that basement. You got fatherly duties up here. I don't know about that YouTube stuff. Get up here. It's like a comedy show. Anyway, let's keep going. So what does Frank have to say about how Stephen Stearns felt about Jen and Maddie? I asked Frank if he had any conversations. Let me just highlight so you can see where I'm at, guys. I'm right here. You see that? That's where I'm at. I asked Frank if he had any conversations with Stephen about his sex life. Frank stated no, however, they would be out and an adult female would be interested in Stephen, and Stephen showed zero interest. Frank stated Stephen told him, I think we got a typo there. Frank said Stephen told him the was going, so I guess he. So it's just a typo. So let's read that correctly, grammatically correct. Frank stated Stephen told him he was going to go to Kissimmee the weekend of 2/17/2024, but he didn't go. Frank stated Stephen was talking about Madeline when he said he was going to Kissimmee that weekend. Frank said Stephen was talking about him, so we got some more grammatical issues here. He and Jennifer, well, I guess him and Jennifer ending their relationship, and Madeline's name came up during that conversation. He was more upset about the bond he created with Madeline than having a relationship with Jennifer. There were no conversations between Stephen and Jennifer mentioning him going to Kissimmee this weekend. Frank stated he didn't know much about the sleeping arrangements when Stephen was living in Kissimmee. Once again, Frank is now pointing us in that direction that Maddie was his girlfriend in his eyes, not Jen. Jen was a means to the end. In these pedophilic relationships where they have found a vulnerable woman to allow them to take advantage of their child, they will tolerate the woman for access to the child. They'll have intercourse with the woman. They'll celebrate anniversaries with the woman. They'll tell the woman they love her. They'll do whatever a normal person does in a relationship simply because they want access to the child. I believe this was that circumstance. That in his mind, his woman was Madeline Soto, not Jen Soto. And when he found out that she's getting older and she's no longer interested in being with him or allowing him to victimize her, rather, I got to watch my language because I don't want anybody to be construed that this little girl had a choice. She had no choice. Just like how, before I continue, big shout out to some of these new members. I got to show you guys love. So Bald and Snarky, big shout out. She's a recruit member. Scroll up real quick. I caught Meg Schaefer. She's a White Shield member. That's a high tier, so I appreciate that. And Whole 180 with Aaliyah gave me $20 of Canadian money. I appreciate you. She says, please get your sweet wife some flowers and appreciation for all she does behind the scenes to support you. Great job, strategic eyes. She's not really a flower person, but I got her one of those bags. What they call that? Shoot, man. I'm not really a fashion person. It's like the whole fad. His name is Michael something. I don't know. It's expensive. I put it on a credit card. I'll pay for it over the next couple of months. I'll pay for it. I got a nice little high-end bag. So yes, I do show her love. Yeah, I have to. But anyway, so what was I saying? Before I rudely interrupted myself. Frank is basically telling us this, right? He's pointing us in that direction, okay? This is what they do. This is what the predators do, all right? Clearly, he views this girl as his girlfriend. And with her getting older, with her talking to her therapist and calling him weird, if she was still under his spell, ladies and gentlemen, she would not call him weird to the therapist. Now, her saying he eats all the food and stays in the living room, that's her outcry right there. That's her trying her best in her own way to say that something's wrong. People need to understand. We have a lot of survivors. We have a few victims in this chat on the channel. We have a lot of survivors. And we have quite a few warriors. And if you don't know the difference between those folks, then you need to watch the Strategic Eyes show more, because we talk about this a lot. And if you're a victim, don't feel ashamed, because you're on the road to being a survivor, and our survivors are on the road to be warriors. But the victims, the survivors, and the warriors can attest to what I'm about to say. One of the most demeaning, traumatizing things a person can do is talk about their victimization. Some people even say it's on the same level of when they were actually victimized. It's like PTSD, you start reliving it. It takes a great deal of courage, fortitude, and bravery to say, this is what's happening to me. Now picture us expecting a little girl who has had to deal with this since she was 8 years old on record, meaning what we can actually quantify, what we can see with our eyes, which is what is in those phones. That's at least 8 years old. But once again, what Strategic Eyes has been saying for a very long time, and I'm laying it down because I want it to be known that I said this. That's why I always emphasize it. The parents of Stephan Stearns said that he has been with Jen Soto for 7 years. Jen Soto, upon interview, said that she was with him for exactly 7 years. Stephan Stearns, upon interview, said that he has been with Jen Soto for several years, which does not mean the number 7. It just means a lot. I'm going to go with what Jen Soto said because, as I said before, I'm not being sexist, but I believe women are usually better with these dates than men. And I'm going to go with what his parents said because parents have a vested interest in their children. And especially if they don't like a relationship that somebody's in, they're going to remember the dates. So everybody is pretty sure exactly the amount of time that Stephan has been with Jen, except for Stephan. And if you take what's being said, that they've been together for 7 years, that means Maddie was 6. And as I told you guys, how these predators work, they don't just start recording right away. They get their victims accustomed to the abuse. They get them indoctrinated into the abuse before they start introducing things like phones and video cameras, etc. I guarantee you that at the very least, at the lowest common denominator, the least, the grooming started at 6. At the very least, the grooming started at 6. So he has been in this child's life since 6 years old, and I'm going to stop the show for a second to say we're over 1,000 streamers right now for the first time in the history of the Strategic Eyes show. For the first time in the history of the Strategic Eyes show, we are over 1,000 people watching this stream. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this little girl has been abused, or at the very least groomed, by this man since she was 6 years old. Do you guys think that it would be easy for her? That now that she's a preteen and now a teenager, and now she's been exposed to TikTok, she's been exposed to YouTube. Maybe she caught a channel. Maybe she caught Grizzly True Crime on another true crime thing. Maybe she caught Plunder. Maybe she caught The Docket. Maybe she saw Strategic Eyes when I was talking about true crime part-time, and she saw us talking about a case like this. Maybe she read a book inside of her school library. Maybe her and her friends spoke about sex. And she starts realizing, oh my God, they actually send people to jail for what Stephan Stearns has been doing to me. Oh my God, a child my age should not be subjected to this type of abuse. Do you think it would be easy for her to have a conversation with anybody about what has been happening to her? The answer is no, ladies and gentlemen. But the outcry was there. People just didn't pick up on it. You want to see how I feel about that? go check out my video on the school counselor situation. Check out that video. So now I want to move on to the next video. I want to move on to the next video. I want to pull that up for you guys. Oh, we'll get to that. I'm going to try and get to this Jen stuff. Let me see what my time looks like. If I don't get to the Jen stuff, I will do another video dedicated only to Jen. And to be honest with you, there's so much. I just got a few stuff here. If I have to do a part 2 and talk about Jen, about why I think she knew, it's probably going to be best if it's done tomorrow or the day after that, because I'll have the opportunity to get even more stuff than what I already have. Because I got a lot of stuff, but there's a whole lot more I could put in there. But let's keep going. We'll see how time looks. We'll see how our time looks. So let me get over here. So this one is titled A2. I want to pull that up for you fine people.
This big ass tower out in Bithlow.
Let me stop that real quick and get us our timestamp. That's 27-minute mark. So this is the father who's going to tell us how his son felt about Maddie. We'll start a little bit behind so we get some context, and let's listen to it.
There's not that much room in there. I mean, you could stash a body if you wanted to, if that's the case. But like I said, as far as I know, I have the only key. I don't know if
now, not to go to a different topic, but I just want to make a correction, point something out. This is the father talking about his storage room. Now, we looked at the interior of that storage room. Remember that? We did that. We covered that. We looked at that on Strategic Eyes Show. And it is not like what he is describing. What he's describing is not what we see inside of that storage room. And I find that telling. Why would the father not be honest about that? Why would he not be honest about that? You know what? How about this? How about this? Real quick. That's the storage area. This is the storage room. This is the room he said, oh, I guess you could hide a body in there, but it's not that much room. Look how big the storage room is. Is it the premium size storage room? Absolutely not. Could you fit 5 or 6 or even 7 adults in there and sandwich them in there? Absolutely. Without all this knickknack in there, you could probably put good 15, 20 people in there standing up. But you certainly could put a 5-foot-nothing little girl in there. Absolutely, you could put a little girl in there. So what is the father talking about that you can't fit, yeah, I guess you could put a body in there, but it's not that big. I also want to make another correction to myself because I got thrown off a little bit. So this is a cyber power backup battery unit. And what I said was I looked around and I was like, I don't see a computer here. All I saw was this Hikvision surveillance system, which is a really good surveillance system. I'm actually looking for one, and I was looking at Hikvisions recently. So it's funny how the universe works. This is a tower. I thought he had a second power source because it's cyber power, but apparently cyber power makes towers as well. So he had a cyber power computer tower. Now, as a former computer builder, as a hobbyist, I would never use a cyber power tower. That's a low end one. There are much higher end towers that you'd want to build your system on. But apparently this is a computer over here. It is. So not only did he have a surveillance system in here that appears to be off because we can't see any lights on it. We can see lights on a power source, and we certainly can see lights on this network splitter over here. But we can't see lights on this, but this is a computer. It's a computer. Now, why would you have a computer inside of a storage unit that's on? Doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you do that? Why would you have a storage unit with these computers plugged in and cable running into the computer. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you pay for a separate cable internet connection just for whatever you have here? You could run in your house and just run it off the existing internet that you have and save yourself money. They have a separate bill here, a separate high-speed cable bill, and a surveillance system and a computer here that is always online. And I just find that very weird. But anyway, let's get back to the audio on how Stephan Stearns felt about Maddie. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. I'll bring it back a little bit so you can hear him talk. But that was really weird. That was really weird.
Where would you live? You know, the Palestine-Israeli situation. That's what. Okay,
so that was more of a fictitious. If doomsday happens,
yeah.
Sweetheart, where are you going to live? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I go live in the woods. I said, I don't. Is she going to live in the woods now by herself? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, my idea of roughing it is that Howard Johnson's without a pool.
What is?
No kidding.
Do you know the unit number for your storage unit?
Yeah.
Because obviously you see the scope of home you're doing. At some point, we may want to get that storage unit as well.
I was there a couple of weeks ago pulling out some tax boxes. There's not that much room in there. I mean, you could stash a body if you wanted to, if that's the case. But like I said, as far as I know, I have the only key. I don't know if there were 2 keys issued, and I haven't seen the other key for well over a year. So,
is there a chance that he has that key?
Yeah, I would say
there's always a chance.
There
right?
could be a chance because he's stolen from us,
Okay.
and why he would want it is beyond me, because all his stuff is that he has, you know, guitar or what have you, is stuck in the very back, and he didn't want that. But I've ended up trying to clean out our garage, and I stuck all the other stuff there, and he wouldn't like that. Nor would I think he would spend the time to pull shit out of there to get it, you know.
So we end up finding out that he actually brought CSAM hard drives into that storage area. So they did find hard drives. To the best of my recollection, I believe so. My memory's pretty good when it comes to this stuff. They found hard drives inside the storage area, and the father also gave them computer that was inside of the garage, I believe. And big shout out to Synth Serber. He said, at Strategic Eyes, your wife sounds like the wife of Frozone in The Incredibles. Quote, why are you doing crime stuff when the trash needs to go out? You hit it right on the nail, Synth. You hit it right on the nail. Exactly what she does. So now he's going to go into how he believes Stephan Stearns felt about Maddie.
What does he think about?
My impression is that he loves the shit out of her, you know. And he was very upset Monday when he was talking to me. You know, he was sobbing and blaming himself for her disappearance, and he was just. I could tell he was just going to be an emotional wreck.
Yeah. Did he ever have? Did he discipline her? How long were?
It's hearsay. You know, he may have yelled at her because the Jen and Jen would tell me this. The Jen.
All right, these pauses aren't me. This is them editing stuff out. The police when they gave the FOIA request. I don't know when it's going to come back on, so we're just going to be patient. That's a lot of stuff that they've edited out. A lot.
Did you ever have like extensive, maybe during the holidays or whatever, where you were with the whole family?
They came down at Thanksgiving or at Christmas. My wife and the dogs.
Slept with who?
My wife and the dogs.
And the dogs.
Yeah.
And during those times, was their relationship seemingly normal?
Yeah. I mean, they secluded themselves in Stephan's room, the 3 of them.
And then Jen.
Okay. And they would spend the bulk of their time there, times and play with the dogs. They would bring Sailor with them,
Okay.
and would go into the bedroom and maybe read a book or watch a movie together, hang out. But
Okay. And nothing, I mean, you were a cop for years. Nothing you noticed that would be alarming?
I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.
Okay.
So then just going back to the storage unit, obviously they're going to go to the house and check in the near future. Do you have any issues with us checking out your storage?
Your code was used this morning to access the property, the storage property.
All right, so I want to go ahead now and I want to pull up a video. This is from Plunder. So Plunder just did a video today and we saw some interesting stuff that we wanted to talk about. So I want to play for you because this is going to show where Jen is lying. I just want to play this real quick. I know we're still talking about Stephan Stearns and his obsession with Maddie, but I want to play this for you guys real quick. Or maybe I should save it. I'll wait. I'm sorry to jump around. It's so much, guys. It really is a lot of information that we're going through. This is no joke, man. This is a lot that they're dumped. And it could be a lot of reasons why they're doing that. I think Florida has the Sunshine Act, which means that they have to put this stuff out. It could also be that a deal is on the horizon with Stephan Stearns, that he's going to plead guilty. But even though if you have somebody who may be in negotiations to plead guilty, you still want to prepare your case. You still want to have your witnesses. You still want to be able to rock and roll just in case they change their mind. So as a district attorney or a county attorney, you kind of playing those dual sides. The dual side of, okay, this person is talking about through their attorney they want to plead guilty. But at the same time, you know what? If they change their mind, which defendants often do, you know what? I need to be ready to go to trial, all right? And remember, this trial is not going to happen until at the very least the end of 2025. It is not going to happen in the winter of 2024, the winter of 2025, the spring of 2025, or the summer of 2025. This case will not go to trial until the fall of 2025. Mark my words, guys. There's 1,135 people in the room right now, and more than half of them hate what I'm saying because I only have 531 likes, and that's okay. You can't be liked by everybody. But there's a lot of witnesses in this room. I'm telling you, this case will not go to trial until the fall, at the very earliest, the fall of 2025. But that being said, it's a lot of information here. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through. But like I was saying, I've showed you guys tons of evidence. Witness statements from family and friends, etc. What does it show? It shows that Stephan Stearns loved Maddie in his sick and demented way. It's not real love. I'm just using the word for its most basic definition. He did not truly love her. He victimized her. He groomed her. He possessed her. I get it. But I believe that one theory as to why he killed her is because she started liking other boys. She started liking other boys. She expressed that with him. And for most people, even kids her age, if it was another boy her age that had a crush on her, and she said, oh, in passing, maybe they were friends. She said, oh, I got a crush on Mikey, and he's not Mikey. Most people would handle that in a mature way, like, okay, it is what it is. But when you're dealing with a sick and demented monster like Stephan Stearns, whose worldview is warped, who's got the mind of a degenerate, who has been abusing this child and possessing this child and controlling this child and love bombing this child with the little stupid trinkets that he'd buy her that are pretty much worthless, who's dominating her time, taking her away from her friends and her social development by constantly being in her phone, text messaging her, keeping her later at night when she should be in bed getting ready for school. He's FaceTiming her. Lord knows what he was making her do during those FaceTimes when he had his grip on her. When you are that man with that mentality and that evil spirit, do you honestly believe you would be able to handle her telling you that you're interested in somebody else and not get upset? And in this case, homicidally upset. He finds out she has a crush. All of a sudden, there's a mad dash to get over to Kissimmee. He's angry the night before. Why was he angry? Something had to be said to him by Maddie or Jen to make him angry. Think about it, guys. He had no reason to kill Madeline. Madeline has not told anybody about the abuse. Nobody knew. Even her diary didn't have a full confession in there like, hey, you know, Stephan has done X, Y, and Z to me on these dates. No smoking gun. In fact, in the absence of the pictures, they might just be working with a homicide case. In the absence of the pictures and the videos that they found, if he wasn't a collector, if he didn't collect the evidence that resulted in his own demise, they may have never known what he was doing to Madeline Soto. Maybe they did an autopsy. Not maybe. Of course they did an autopsy. Maybe they would have decided to do a rape kit based because he's a stepfather and it's a domestic murder type situation. Maybe if he had had sex with her recently, his seminal fluid or DNA would have been in or on her, and they could have proved it. But if he had not had sex with her in weeks or months, and he just came and killed her and did not abuse her that night, they would have no evidence. How would they not know that she wasn't just sexually active in school with other kids? They'd have no evidence of it. We would just be looking at a homicide. We'd all just be sitting there asking, like, why? What was the motive? And little what we know is the motive was that, you know, he was involved with her in an inappropriate way. He was having intercourse with her. He was raping her. He would know that, but we would not know that. We only know this definitively because he was a collector. Because he had to have his trophies. He proved to us through his own words, through the testimony of his friends. He broke up with Jen Soto allegedly. Remember, we're getting mixed messages on that. Some people say it was over economics. Some people said because he wasn't a supportive boyfriend. Some people said because he couldn't have sex with her. She says it's because he refused to have sex with her. That's what I inferred from the conversation. Other conversations is she couldn't have sex with him because of her medication. It's all over the place. But in the conversation with Frank, he didn't give a damn that he wasn't with Jen Soto anymore. All he cared about was Maddie. All he cared about was Maddie. And in the conversation with his father that he had with the detectives, guess what? The night before, he was angry. Dad was afraid to set him off. He was chugging down 4-year-old medication to get his high and even him out. He was furious. He wasn't scared. He was pissed. Why? And the day after Madeline Soto is dead, or maybe the day of, it's one of those 2 days, he talks to the cops, and what did he say? Crushes. We'll end the poll right now. Let's see what the people had to say about my crushes. End the poll. Oh, where did it go? Oh, there we go. 73% said, no, I'm not reaching for the crushes. 26% said yes. 485 people voted. It's a lot of people, and I appreciate that. Majority wins. Crushes. I want to hear that one more time. I'm sorry. I apologize. One more time. Crushes. Crushes.
She was excited.
Sorry. It's okay.
Just talking about crushes.
Somehow, crushes. That's what disgust. Sometimes all we have to rely on, ladies and gentlemen, is the tone of a person's voice, their body language, the way that they speak, their vocal inflections when we're trying to get to the truth. Sometimes that's all we have. That's why most police departments prefer video recordings. I understand why they did audio. A lot of this is secret recordings that they're doing. I get it. But that's why we put you in an interview room and you got multiple angles. You got up top, side, face, all of that. Down low, want to see if your legs are shaking. Because sometimes all we have are those social cues that could lead us to the truth, lead us to deception. Listen to how he said crushes, and I'm done. I'm not going to beat this dead horse. I'm not talking about Maddie. I'm talking about my point. I'm not going to beat my point to death. I'll be done with this. One more time, ladies and gentlemen. Crushes.
Sunday night. Tell me about Sunday into Monday. What you remember?
She just had a party.
Why would they edit out birthday party? Let's keep going.
She was excited.
Sorry. It's okay.
Just talking about crushes.
She's talking about crushes.
Her singing that was coming up, and you want me to come see her sing?
We know the rest is lies. We know the rest is lies. All right. I got to get out of here because I have work. Before I go, we're at the 121 mark. I want to play for you. We're going to do a separate video. Might be pre-produced, might be a live. Whatever you guys want to do. In fact, let me put a poll up because I'm going to give you a taste of what we're going to talk about with this with the Jen Soto thing. Because people are defending Jen Soto, and it's your right to defend her, and I'm not going to look down on you for defending her, but I don't agree with defending her. Let me change my language. It's not what I agree with. What I feel matters nothing. You have the right to feel however you want to feel, but I don't think she deserves your sympathy, and people are giving her the sympathy. So let's do, should I do a live or a pre-recorded video on Jen Soto and her knowledge of Maddie's abuse? You guys let me know. Let me know how you feel. Let's let democracy prevail. Let democracy prevail. So I'm going to give you guys a taste of this. I'm going to give you guys a taste. And it's good because some of my notes got messed up and because I did them on my phone and accidentally deleted. So it'll give me more time to get everything together. But I definitely want to go into the whole grooming situation that's causing controversy in the other video. I want to go through all of that. And I think it deserves its own show so that we can methodically go through it. So you're not being rushed and all that good stuff. We can methodically go through it. And also, you can't say, oh, I'm editing stuff. Not saying that anybody would say that, but, I want you to see it live. See it live. But we'll see. We'll see what democracy says. So 56. We'll go to 56. Page 56. page 56. All right, next one is 56. Here we go. See if I can find where it's at. All right, so check this out. I'm going to start a little bit further up because it's going to show that the story is everywhere on her sex drive. Is it her or is it Stephan that doesn't want to have sex with her? I think it might be a combination of the two, because if Stephan is having sex with, and I hate to just say it so bluntly, because it's not sex. Sex is never supposed to be something unhealthy. But you know, when the word I want to say, YouTube doesn't want me to say too much, which is the RAPE word. So if I constantly say that, it'll put an alert on the video, and the video would, you know, get demonetized and all that extra stuff. And it's not so much that you don't get no revenue in the video, is that they don't show it to anybody. So all this message goes nowhere. All right, because it's not advertiser friendly, so the message goes nowhere. So we got to watch what we say. Everybody has to, right? But it is what it is. All right. Intercourse, we'll say, whatever. It's going to show us a different account on why they weren't intimate. So let's jump into that. So Jennifer said she ended the relationship because he was a messy person. Jennifer said they didn't have a sexual relationship because her medication affected her sex drive. This is contradicted to what her friend Angelica said. All right, but let's keep going. I asked Jennifer who drives her vehicle, and she said only her and Stephan. Now, in another interview, she said he didn't drive her vehicle because he wasn't underneath the insurance. So she's lying all over the place, guys. She's lying. So let's keep going. Jennifer says Stephan took her vehicle Monday night because he decided to go drive around searching for Madeline. This would have been when Stephan traveled back to St. Cloud in the early morning hours of 2/27/2024. Let's keep going. Orange County detectives had previously shown Jennifer photographs of Stephan's penis for identification purposes. Jennifer did not want to believe blank, and I guess they mean Madeline, and Stephan were engaged in sexual activity. Jennifer asked to see the image of Stephan blank and pulled out a printed picture from Stephan's Google Drive and showed blank with Stephan's penis in Maddie's mouth. Jennifer said she didn't recognize anything in the picture. This is your man who you've been with for 7 years, who has a distinctive birthmark or mole that the whole world is talking about on his peen. Not only that, but he also has discoloration on his peen that makes it all around unique to him. More so than everybody else's stuff is unique to them. He's got these type of things on it that makes it even more distinctive. And then you have your own daughter. Your own daughter. That's your baby. And they show you a picture of your boyfriend whose body you should know and whose daughter whose body you created, and you say you don't recognize anything going on in that picture. I don't know them. The next sentence is as if she was in denial. That is the investigator's opinion. It's a good opinion, but it's still their opinion. We don't know if she was in denial. We don't know if she just didn't care. We don't know if she was complicit. We don't know if she was having a nervous breakdown at the moment. We don't know if she was going through trauma and shock, and that's why she made that statement. We have no idea because we're not in her soul. We're not in her mind. What we do know is what we see and what we hear. The picture was shown to her. She said she didn't know what it was. However, she became visibly upset, and shortly thereafter these questions, I excused myself and told her I was going to speak with Stephan. This is what people are defending. I shouldn't pause so long. I just can't help it because some people listen to this in the podcast version. You pause that long, they're like, what, is it over? This is what we're working with. This is what some folks out there are defending. Now, I'm not saying that people should have the right to say inaccurate things. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, come on. There's more than enough evidence that shows this woman understood what was happening to her daughter and just did not care. And you folks are looking for a smoking gun, but there is no smoking gun. There never is a smoking gun. There never is. These investigations are always complicated. They're always complicated. They always have successes and I don't know the word I'm looking for, then you get backtracked or whatever, ups and downs. It is what it is. That is the nature of an investigation. You are never going to get a smoking gun because guess what? You get the smoking gun, the case is over. If we got the smoking gun, they'd have came, he would have called the police. He'd have said, listen, I lost control and I killed her. That happens from time to time. By the way, I've been abusing her since she was was strategic. If you watch the Strategic Eye show, he says that I've been abusing her since 6 years old. But you'll find in my phone evidence of me abusing her since 8 years old. And I lost control and I killed her. And then Jen will be right next to him and she'll say, yeah, you know what? I knew it was happening. I just didn't do nothing about it. It is what it is. Take us into jail and send us to jail for the rest of our life. It never works that way. It never works that way. She was shown pictures of her daughter. She was shown a solo picture of her boyfriend with the distinctive birthmark and all that good stuff. And she said she didn't know whose penis that was. And then she was shown a picture of her boyfriend abusing her child. And she said she didn't know who those people were in the picture. And then she goes later on, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to continue this on another live because I want to get all of that stuff in effect. So Strategic Eye's research crew, this is our mission. Because you guys know I'm working like crazy. I'll be getting home 3 a.m, so I won't have that much time to research. But please focus on us getting this evidence, all these different little excerpts and stuff and videos and audios. This is what we're going to work on. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get this video, this live done with you guys before the end of the week. She then goes and speaks. She then gets in the car with Stephan Stearns. This is her testimony now. We heard the testimony, but I want to get the actual, read it out to you guys. I don't know if it's in this one. But her testimony backs up what the father said. Because the father says, Chris Stearns says that she calls him up and says, listen, you need to get a lawyer for your son. Well, guess what? She admits to that. In her statement, she says, yo, listen, I felt you guys were looking into him and you had the wrong person. So I called up his father and I told his father that he needs to get an attorney for his son. She admits it too. There's no shame in her game. There's no shame in her game. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to end this live. But we're going to end it with who I believe the real identity of Jen Soto is. And some of you guys are going to think what I'm about to do is funny. It might be a little funny for the people who know. But if you really know this movie, The Usual Suspects, and you really understand the plot of that movie, you will understand what I'm trying to say when I say that Jen Soto is Kaiser Soze. She's Kaiser Soze. So let's bring in The Usual Suspects and let's see if I'm correct. It's a 4-minute excerpt from The Usual Suspects.
Fucking cops.
Can I use your fax machine?
I'll have to sign for these. Kent. 1 watch, gold. 1 cigarette lighter, gold. 1 pack of cigarettes, thank you.
You still got nothing, Dave.
I know what I wanted to know about Keaton.
Which is nothing.
No matter. He'll have to know how close we came.
Kaiser Soze or no Kaiser Soze. If Keaton is alive, he's not coming up again. I'll find them. Waste of time. A room is not a room, and it doesn't die. What? Nothing. Man, you're a slob.
Yeah, but it all has a system, Dave. It all makes sense when you look at it right. You gotta, like, stand back from it, you know? You wanna see a real horror show? See my garage.
See my garage. So this is when he's going to realize he got conned. And this is why she's causing Soze. In this movie, there's a murder. We detected. They got to block my stream. All right, sorry. I'm sorry. You can't do nothing on YouTube. So I'm going to have to cut this out in post-production because YouTube was not trying to hear it. But anyway, so in this movie, Spacey plays this con man who basically is a part of like this murder that happens on a boat or whatever. And he's being questioned by police, and he's like doing this whole convoluted story implicating all kinds of people. And you know, this Kaiser Soze guy is like the guy who's like behind everything. And in the end, but the whole time he's acting like he's a con man, small time crook who's also crippled. And so as you can see in the end, he finally convinced the cops that he had nothing to do with anything and everything with Kaiser Soze, and they let him go. And as he's going, you see that he slowly stops being a cripple and starts walking normal, and then he gets away. He gets away in the movie. So the real murderer, the mastermind, the person who truly is Kaiser Soze, who's pretending to be this small-time crippled criminal, gets away. That's what's happening with Jen. She's, look at me behind, look at her behind me. Oh my God, I take so much medication. I'm so sleepy. I'm so tired. Oh my God, I can't do anything. I can't function. All this good stuff, right? But she's walking away into the sunset, possibly, not being held accountable for what she did. If you listen to Jen talk, people talk about she has diminished capacity. How dare you? And I don't like to get personal and upset with people, but how dare you disrespect her like that? How dare you disrespect the people who do have diminished capacity out there? She's not in any way cognitively impaired. She has mental health issues. Sure, I'm not going to say she doesn't. I believe she has mental health issues, but in no way is she like somehow incapable of being an adult, incapable of paying a bill, incapable of raising a child, incapable of showering herself, incapable of paying her car note and paying her insurance, filing a claim, taking her child to the doctor, enrolling her child in school. She doesn't have these issues. She is not cognitively impaired in any way. And some people say that to kind of like give her a break. No, she does not deserve it. It's not fair to her, and it's certainly not fair to the other people out there who do have to deal with those issues. Anyway, guys, I love you guys immensely. You guys are great. Please consider joining the channel as a member. Our lowest tier is 99 cents, but you do get what you paid for. At the lowest tier, you're a member. You get exclusive content, but you get even more exclusive content if you purchase a higher tier of the membership. Please make sure you hit that like button, guys. We have a lot of people here who are watching the show. Please hit the like button, support the channel. Understand it's not for our egos. We're doing it because it gets us into the algorithm, gets them to show our show to a wider audience, and we do appreciate that. For the people who's going to be a part of the replay crew, please make sure that you go in, and even though you commented and you watched the stream already, but you want to do us a favor, be a part of that replay crew, comment again in the comment section, because there's two different comment sections. There's the live stream comment section, and then there's the regular replay comment section. They both need love, so make sure you at least throw a thumbs up, say where you're from, say, hey, I'm from Michigan, wherever you're from, Atlanta, Australia, UK, China, Japan, doesn't matter. Show love in that comment section, because all that stuff increases our engagement and gets us shown to a wider audience. And lastly, the Strategic Eyes Show does have merchandise, so consider checking out our merch, man. We got cool t-shirts, mugs, all that stuff. We're going to get hats in. We had bags in. They got taken down for whatever reason. We're going to try and put the bags back up. We got a lot of cool stuff there, a lot of cool merch. Consider supporting the channel, showing us love so we can stick around for the long term and entertain you guys with true crime material. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about serious stuff, but we are trying to entertain you at the same time, all right? That's why you're here. This is your form of entertainment. It is what it is. So show love, Share it with your friends and family. I'll see you guys on the next one. We had a really, really good show. But with all good things, I must bid you adieu. Strategic is out of here. Peace.